Hi, and welcome to HR Debatable. My name is Nelly Verlinden. I'm your host, and today I'm being joined by two fantastic guests, Nes Montequera and Alex Hernandez. Hi, Vanessa, and hi, Alex.
Hey, Nelly. Hey, Alex. Great to join you.
Yes, I'm so happy both of you were able to make it, and I'm very much looking forward to today's episode. Nes, perhaps you can introduce yourself in a few words.
Yeah, sure. I am I'm many things, but from a career perspective, I'm a global people leader in the tech industry. I'm a leadership and career coach, specifically for women and tech. DEI is a big part of my life and mission. And also, importantly, I'm a corporate hippie. So that will shape today's debate as well, I think.
I think so too. Thank you very much. Alex, perhaps you could also tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. Yes, I'm Alex. I'm French. I live in Madrid, and I come from the headhunting industry. And 4 years ago, just before, actually during lockdown, I decided to launch with someone that I've never met before, called Juan. I decided to launch a company called JobGether, and we are a fully remote company helping talents to find a remote job, because we are today the largest job search engine dedicated to remote jobs. And I work with people from all around the world, and I'm obviously a big remote work advocate.
Yes, interesting. We'll see about that during the statements, I think, as well later, Alex. Thank you both. Now, before we get started, let me quickly explain also for people listening and watching what we are going to do. In HR Debatable, as the name suggests, we debate about various HR and world of work related statements. I will give a bit of context and then I'll share the statement, and then both Nes and Alex, you choose a position either in favor of or against or something in between. And of course, you then get the opportunity to defend your position so that we have an actual debate. And I might play devil's advocate every now and then to spark the debate further. Are there any questions?
All good for me.
Ready.
Nice. Then let's go. All right. So the first theme that we'll be talking about today is remote work. According to a 2023 article by Fortune, work from home is stabilizing at around 25% of days, which is 5 times more than what it was 5 years ago in 2019. In a different article by Forbes, we see that 12.7% of full-time employees work from home, with 28.2% working in a hybrid way. And according to that same article, it is expected that by 2025, so next year, 32.6 million Americans will work remotely. Now, we already knew that a lot of employees, they prefer working remotely. 98% of them would like to work from home at least some of the time. And it is for various reasons expected that these remote work numbers will continue to go up over the next few years. Naturally, this brings up questions like, what are we going to do with all the office space that, as a result of this, will probably be used a lot less? Is having an office actually still serving a purpose in 2024? Some companies like Spotify and Salesforce, they have already been rethinking their use of the office, while others, as we touched on in our last episode of HR Debatable, choose the opposite route and try and push their people back into the office. And so the remote work topic continues to be a source for interesting debates. And here is then also our first statement for today. Remote work is the future and office spaces are obsolete. All right. Alex, I'm going to start with you. What do you vote?
Yes, but.
All right. Nes, what do you vote?
I'll go say for this, just to have a different point of view, no and.
All right. Thank you. Alex, I'm gonna go back to you now. So you said yes, but please, can you elaborate?
Yeah, the first part, remote work is the future. Yes, 100%. Many people think that COVID changed the rules. I don't think COVID actually changed the rule. I think it just accelerated the process of, all of us becoming more flexible. And of course, that process has been so quick that, it's a challenge for all of us to become more flexible. for many reasons, legal reasons, cultural reasons, like many reasons, because it doesn't just affect the way we work, but it affects the way we live. Because, if you think about it, we spend 8, 9, 10, sometimes more hours, at work. So of course, if remote work, affect the way we work, it also affect the way we live. I'm not saying that full remote work is the future. And I think we all going to go, to a more balanced way of working. And, I think hybrid is the future, despite me being fully remote. Or at least what the future is giving people the choice of what's best for them. Because of course, if you have kids, if you are, looking after your parents, or if you are disabled or whatever, I'm always saying at my company, we are 22 people and there are 22 different situations. So that's why I think, yes, remote work is the future. Office spaces are obsolete. I think, yes, companies will need less office space for sure, because people don't want to be in the office 5 days a week anymore. And the companies trying to, get the people back are failing. Maybe it's a way to get people to resign. Maybe, I don't know. Sometimes I think that, but it's a different topic. So yes, companies will need less office space for sure. So I think you have two topics here. What are we going to do with the office space that we don't need? I think we all know that people still, move to the city center more and more. So maybe you can turn that into just, places to live for people. For me, what's interesting is how companies will transform their office. And I usually take the example of the company BlaBlaCar. It's actually the first French unicorn. BlaBlaCar, a couple of years ago, they just launched a brand new office. So BlaBlaCar is a remote first company. You do what you want. You go to the office or you don't. Completely flexible. And they, at the same time, launch a brand new office, which, if you think about it, doesn't really make sense. They don't force people to come back and they just spend millions in a new office. What's really interesting for me is the way they redesign the office and the use they're actually making out of this office. Is, for them, an office is not a place to work anymore. It's a place to meet. It's a place to collaborate. It's a place to socialize. And I think it's really interesting because despite not forcing people to come back to the office, they have, I don't know exactly the exact number, but they have around 70% of employees going to the office at least 2 days a week, but not forcing anyone, which is so different. Because if one day your son is sick and you can't come to the office, you just don't come, but maybe you go the next day. And so for me, the office space has a future, but it has to reinvent itself. That's my opinion.
Nice. Thank you very much, Alex. All right, Ness, I'm going to go back to you. And I think yours was a no and, right?
Yeah. And I think it's very technicality. So once again, I felt the same as Alex. There's two parts. There's one that remote is the future, and the second part that offices are obsolete. So remote is the future. The reason I'd say no is the same technicality. I think remote first and hybrid are the future. And if we look at it once again from the prism of diversity, equity, inclusion, and sustainability, the reason it cannot only be in offices, spaces can't be completely obsolete, is there's a different layer of socioeconomic and demographics around it. Not everyone can afford a home or office setup that fits their lifestyle, that also is amenable to the type of work they do. And there's a whole lot of society still doing jobs that are in a workplace. So I think from a fairness perspective, and some people also just want to be in the office, I don't think it's completely obsolete. And I think there's also a tendency to make this a generational debate. Like, let's just use the terms like boomers want everyone back in the office, X's are either way, millennials want to do this, Gen Z. I think correlation is not causation, as we'd say. Yes, we can find trends. But, if I just look at anecdotally a few data points that are qualitative based on people I've talked to in Gen Z, millennials, a lot of them actually do want to go to the office because their whole world, they've been like, I want to go into this space and meet people. And there's other people who are older generations who want the flexibility. So I think the data we're looking at is often skewed based on who is telling it, in terms of a company, in terms of newspapers, in terms of different organizations. So it's more, I think, with this debate or with this question, who are we as an organization? What are our people wanting? What are the demographics? And then how do we do a piece of human-centered design based on the ethnographics of our organization? And I think that is the way forward. It is a human-centered design trend. And I think once we start seeing that happen, instead of some people saying, no, it can't work, everyone back to offices, what is the core of our product? What do we do? What's our way of working? And then what I've seen leaders do is like, this cannot work. We need either control, we need to see people in office. The question is, how do we change the way we work? I think that is the biggest resistance here. I think tech startups and scale ups have it in their DNA in terms of finding talent. I think the debate is also the tech organizations that have scaled and have said, no, we need to do this. Or engineering product design teams must be together for creativity. There is no one size fits all, but I think the dominant players lead the narrative in the media. So that's why I think, no, it's not the only way forward. And office spaces are not obsolete because they can't be if we are going to truly be inclusive and equitable as well. And I think then the final piece to that is exactly like Alex said, what do we do? And you've asked as well, Neely, what do we do with the office space? And for a long time, I was in the same camp, just like turn it into housing. In most countries, we have an issue of homelessness and safe, affordable, accessible housing that's not like miles away from different social services. I think the issue here is, having talked to people, is actually it's very hard to turn a lot of the office space with big windows and spaces into housing. So I think this is still a question of what is a useful space. And if you look at one of my favorite people to follow is the Stanford professor, Nick Bloom, and his work in this space. The big question around offices and the reuse is the level of carbon intensity of keeping an office running. So I think in this whole world of hybrid, remote first or office centric, it's what enables better work, but what is right for the environment. And to that, I don't have an answer yet, but I think they are the key provocations I'd like us to look at in the lenses of social sustainability and diversity, equity, inclusion.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good point that you're making there. Alex, would you like to respond to what Ness is saying?
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree what Ness just said. And I think we always, all of us, I think, always trying to make one rule fits all. It's just not possible, And for example, at my company, we are a fully remote company. We have people, in countries like Colombia, India, Madagascar, Spain, a bit of everywhere. It's working for us. However, we know that not everyone wants to work like this. The younger generations, funny enough, actually are the ones who want to go to the office more for many reasons. Sometimes because they live in a tiny flat, sharing the flat with 5 people, and it just, they'd rather go to a nice big office with big windows, And some companies, maybe want to go for a more hybrid, way of working. And if they find the right people for that, I don't think we're going to find a conclusion what's the best way to work, because, tech companies, pharmaceutical company, banks, are all different. And that's why I said before, I think what we haven't done for many, 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 many years was just, taking into consideration that everyone's different. We are today 3 talking, we are all different, for many reasons. And what's good for me, it's maybe not good for Ness. And what's good for Ness is maybe not good for Unity. And I think companies, leaders, CEOs, managers need to understand that. What's funny is usually managers are the one, for many years, with a lot of flexibility in their agenda. They're always going for lunch with clients. They're always traveling. They're actually having flexibility for a long time. And they are the one, we still that today, saying, no, you need to go to the office, where you don't really do that yourself. So I think it's accepting that people are different, trusting people more. And I always think, I've been a manager of sales team for many years. And I think when you go remote, or at least more flexible, you really see who's a bad manager. And I think, we are seeing a lot of bad management or bad managers, with more flexibility. And of course, it's probably hard to swallow as a manager that, wow, what I was trying to hide for the last 15 years, now everyone realizes how bad a manager I am. So I think it's a big change of mentality. Open space was not done in one day. Now we know that open space was maybe not the best idea that we had, but it probably took 30 years to be implemented. How do we expect remote work or more flexible work to be implemented in, the last 3-4 years? It might take a generation, to be accepted. But for me, again, the key is everyone's different. Let's give people more choice and freedom to decide what's best for them as soon as the work you pay them for is done.
Ness, before we're going to move on, is there perhaps anything you want to share about regarding this topic?
Yeah, I think for the purpose of the debate, I'm like, how can I black hat? But it's really hard because we're in our echo chamber and we're all just like smiling and agreeing. It's like, yes, fist pump. So maybe I'll just bring a different lens to it. Something that Alex said resonated in the first slot as well, which, Alex, you said, we've always worked hybrid. And I believe that, and I think this has changed once again our prism on diversity, equity, inclusion. Like every time you offshore something in the past, an offshored center, or let's send this to, okay, my background is in India, so I know a lot of offshoring happens in India. It's changed that prism from there, that team over there, but you were always working hybrid. Now it's that everyone's doing it. And I know in sort of agile ways of working, we like to say there's no second-class citizens based on who's office and who's not. And I think this piece around, if one person is remote, we're all remote in our ways of working virtually through technology. The work that Darren Murph does, he's like future of work architect, but he was part of GitLab's main remote driver. And he says, like, the pieces around low context communication. And I think that would serve us even when we're in the office. So these ways of working from remote management, low context communication, even strengthen when it is an office-based environment, because it enables managers, employees, anyone to think about how do I communicate and how do I build a layer of collaboration in all circumstances that includes everyone. And I think this is a key inclusion debate, really, if we strip it all the layers away.
I think from the things that really stood out to me from what both of you were saying and that I found very interesting in this context is one thing you mentioned, Ness, around how probably the image that a lot of us have comes from the media, who is actually basing that image on what really large companies are doing in the hybrid remote space. That was something that I thought about. Yes, exactly. You're making a good point there. Something that Alex was saying is, it took us a long time to realize that open space might not be the ideal office kind of setup. So now it is only natural that it will take time as well to really figure out this remote and hybrid way of working and to get it right. And that then comes back again, Ness, to what you're saying around things like as soon as one person is remote, we are all remote, and not having different kinds of, work environment citizens in terms of those who are in the office and those who are not in the office. I think that these are the things that really stood out to me. And I'm going to wrap up with this first debate. Thank you very much.